Hi, I'm Susan Anderson, and you've come to the right place for sewing, quilting, and crafting fun. Today's video is all about needles, bobbins, and tension. Stick around, I'm going to give you a tip on how to get rid of your bird's nesting. So grab your favorite refreshment and let's get started.
If you're doing basic construction, either piecing or you're making a garment, something like that, you're going to be using a standard 80-12 universal needle. With that, the thread that's appropriate is going to be from any manufacturer, okay, a standard 50 weight thread. I've got a couple of them. Some of them are polyester, some of them are cotton covered polyester. Either one is right. It's all a matter of what you want to use or what works best with your particular fabric and how much cleanup you want to deal with. When going with a cotton covered polyester, you're going to have more cleanup. You're going to have to stop and clean out your bobbin more often. If you go with a standard poly thread, you're not going to have the cleanup involved. So it's all a matter of which thread you like to use or what's mostly available to you. The other thing is, when you're talking about threads, you're talking about thread size. Again, I said it was a 50 weight. You want to make sure that your thread fits into the groove on the center front of your needle. If it's too big, it's going to roll off to the side, and when it goes through the fabric, it's going to pop and it's going to skip stitches. That's not what you want. If it's too thin and it's going to wiggle around in the groove, then you're going to end up with a large hole from the needle, and the thread's not going to fill the hole, and you're going to end up with a lot of holes in your garment or quilt top.
Moving on from needles. When I decided to do this YouTube, I was trying to figure out how to explain to you tensions on your machine. Then I figured the best or the only way was to stitch out samples of good and poor quality tension so you knew what to look for. What I've done is I've used red thread in my needle and blue thread in my bobbin so you could see the two threads. I used a 50 weight poly and a size 80-12 universal needle. On the first sample, I've stitched out 3 different settings of a standard zigzag stitch from the machine. With the zigzag stitch, I get more of a pull on the stitches so you can see the tension a little clearer. If I'd done a straight stitch, you wouldn't have been able to see it as well. On the far right, you should be able to see some small blue or dark dots on the edge of the red stitching. My bobbin is pulling to the top of my fabric. What that is telling me is my needle is too tight or my bobbin is too loose. It could also be telling me the needle is too large. On the second row, in the center, that looks beautiful. I see no blue thread being pulled through to the surface. I also see very little on the left. Now, because of the setup of this fabric, I will see or should see some of the bobbin thread on the top, but very, very little. Let's look at the back side to be sure of my choice. I'll flip the fabric over, keeping the rows in the same place so you don't get confused, and you'll have them in the same order. Ooh, look what happened to the center row of stitching. I'm seeing a lot of red thread being pulled to this side of the fabric. This is not good. This is telling me that my needle thread is too loose or my bobbin is too tight. And the one on the far left looks pretty good. I see very little red thread being pulled through. Most machines use a range of anywhere from 3 to 5 on your tension dial on the front of your machine. This would be considered a normal setting. Check with your manual if you're unsure of the dial that would adjust your tension. Some machines will automatically set the tension for you, but you should be able to override it if necessary. I tweak my tensions on a regular basis just to get the results that I like. Here, I've used the size 120 needle with the same 50 weight thread, and you can see it creates some very large holes, too large for the thread. I'm getting bobbin thread pulled to the surface on all 3 of my passes. when adjusting my tension attempting to balance the seams. And on the wrong side, I have the red or needle thread showing in all 3 rows of stitching. If I need a 120 needle, then the one on the left would be my best choice. But my option would be, first off, to change the needle size. It looks like it's too large. Before changing your settings on your tension, rethread your machine. You may have missed a guide. Now things change when you switch to embroidery thread. You don't want balanced tension. When stitching with embroidery thread, you want to say beautiful stitching with no bobbin showing at all. Then when you flip the fabric over, I want to see very little of the bobbin thread. This is correct. The bobbin should be tighter than the needle to pull the thread to the back side. For embroidery, we want unbalanced tension. Your electronic or computerized machines may automatically do this for you. If not, you will want to lower your needle tension. As the example used before, where the needle tension is normal or balanced between 4.5 or 5, you will want to lower it by half, either to 2 or 2.5 for your setting. That would be normal. Beautiful embroideries. Remember to test, and it's only wrong if it doesn't work. Here is my trick for never having a bird's nest on my sewing machine. It's how I thread it. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my presser foot is up off my stitch plate. Then I know that my needle tension has been disengaged and the thread path is open. Then I'm going to proceed to thread my machine. I'm going to hold my thread with my right hand as I walk it through the threading path with my left. Once I get to just above the needle, I'm going to hold both ends and floss like you floss your teeth. What I'm doing is I'm seating the thread into the thread channel so that the machine can apply the tension correctly in order to get you a perfect stitch. And that's it. Just floss.
I wanted to pass along a couple of tips on how to wind a bobbin. Okay. First off, let's look at a bobbin that is wound incorrectly. You can see here that the thread is not evenly spaced from one side of the bobbin to the other side. That's incorrect. Second, I don't know if you can see it. I'll try and zoom in. But right here, I've got a different colored thread than I have up here. What that means is somebody has double wound. That is going to create problems as you go through your seam. Do not do this. Now let's look at a correctly wound bobbin. Okay, this bobbin has evenly spaced rows of thread, and I've got the same amount of bobbin up here as I do down here. In other words, it's nice and even, nice and straight. I'm going to get a good result out of this bobbin. If you do have a bobbin that comes off your machine incorrectly, please take your machine and the bobbin down to your local machine repairman, and he can adjust it for you so that you do get a correctly wound bobbin. Okay. After you've threaded your machine through the threading path to wind a bobbin, you're either going to disengage the clutch, which is on the side of your machine. Again, refer to your owner's operator's manual. It will show you exactly in there how to do this. Okay? And if you have an adjustment for speed on your machine, set it at halfway, about half speed. Okay? This becomes important. If you're trying to wind a bobbin at full speed with polyester thread, what happens is the thread becomes stretched as it's put onto the bobbin, and as it comes off, that stretch is released and you end up with puckered seams. So always wind your bobbins at about half speed. If you don't have a speed adjustment for your machine, then only step on the foot control at about halfway down. It'll accomplish the same thing. But this is the best way for you to get the best results out of your machine and your bobbin.
Don't forget to click on the link below for that needle chart for your studio and the additional resources that will help you out with choosing the correct needle.